the car Mach number, if you say, is very low. Passenger aircraft is about 0.6. But you are looking at a speed which is about beyond 5,000, 6,000 kilometers per hour. But in fact, in nature, you find these waves everywhere. This is one of the movies which actually came out in Nature about 6 months ago, for the paper, where a huge star gets blown away. You will also have a simple shock wave which is generated. They say the last mass extinction took place because a meteorite came and hit the Earth. A massive underwater shock actually swept through the entire sea, killing all the aquatic life. I don't know how many of you would have heard about the recent asteroid impact in Russia. A chunk of asteroid actually entered the Earth's atmosphere. But although it fell somewhere in Siberia, 100 kilometers downstream, window panes are actually opened up. It's a remarkable amount of energy. In fact, in one of the international study teams about which I was a part, in fact in Israel, all these bus drivers who sit in buses, whenever there is a bomb blast in bus, unfortunately they used to be looking completely dazed. From outside they will not have any consciousness. But one doctor used to take them to the operation theatre. When he cut open, every organ has actually ruptured. You may not even feel that the shock has actually passed through. Our current research shows that your helmets are not actually damping out blast wave. It is actually contrary. Foams amplify the shock wave. Most helmets are not really safe, although it can actually protect you mainly because there is a chunk of little bit of plastic material. But foam on the contrary can enhance the pressure amplitude. In fact, many such experiments are possible. One of the very simplest experiments is, I don't know if the video is going to play. If you have a simple balloon like this, in fact, DST has made a movie which was broadcast recently. And if there is some energy which is there in the balloon and then you try to puncture it, then you actually hear a sound. But there are different ways by which you can send out the balloon. If you puncture, then essentially it just goes out. And you have created a tiny shock wave in the laboratory. Diwali Day cracker is a kind of shock wave. So if you try to measure the pressure, you are just creating an instantaneous rise in the pressure and instantaneous rise in the temperature also. And this is what happens when there is an earthquake, when there is a bomb blast, when there is a volcanic eruption. Japanese, in fact, turn off the power to all their bullet trains in 20 seconds whenever there is an earthquake. Because there is what is called as a precursor shock wave whenever earthquake takes place. And they put sensors all along the Japan, and whenever the vibration level goes beyond a certain value, they turn off everything. So these are all very much part of our regular life. So we have been looking at the science of shock wave, and now in some part we are in the engineering solution. But towards the end I will also show you a product in a very unusual application where we have also gone in the technology. So one of our dreams in the lab is when we do science, we should also do engineering. We should also develop technology which are at global level and go and make product and sell the product, convert your knowledge into money. That's the ultimate game. So one of the simplest examples that we did here is whenever the shock is, say, at 2 kilometers per second, you have a shock wave ahead. So as aerospace engineers, I need to know the distance between the body and the shock. This region will be at a very high temperature. These are all captured using high-speed camera which can capture close to 5 lakh frames per second. But on the contrary, when the speed becomes very large, you can see the entire front end glowing. That's what happened in Kalpana Chawla's accident. They put what are called as ceramic tiles. One such tile had loosened up during takeoff. So as a result, there was enough heat energy transferred from outside to inside, and the temperature became close to 500 degrees centigrade. Virtually they were burnt alive. And in future, they talk about one very nice engine called scramjet engine. Now every country is trying to chase this particular engine, and this engine does not have any rotating parts. And in fact, it's very interesting that they are trying to do flight tests on this engine, where they are trying to put a vehicle of this nature and then take it up to the altitude and then fire it. The good thing about this engine is if you have a vehicle which is fitted with this engine, I can go from Bangalore to Delhi in 15 minutes. I can go from Tokyo to New York in 2 hours. Space tourism is here to stay. And you won't be surprised that people simply take off from an aircraft from ground, go to the International Space Station. There is a hotel which is now being set up by one of the business houses in UK. People will simply go to space and enjoy and come back. These vehicles, whatever you think is all fancy, will become reality in your own lifetime. Temperatures here can be about close to 2000 degrees centigrade. And this is the engine. So So the engine just goes in and utilizes the energy of shock and then tries to produce. Everybody is trying to chase this. India is also doing some interesting work in this. And yet we have not really done a flight test. There is a flight test which is scheduled for the next year by DRDO. And hopefully if this becomes a reality, then again maybe something worthwhile will happen. But you remember, understanding the fundamental physics associated with the interaction of shock wave in a scenario like supersonic jet engine is science. Only when I know that, I can think of an engineering device called an engine, and then I can build the engine one after the other without any failure. People can comfortably start using it. That becomes the technology. So without science, there can be no engineering or no technology. Please don't neglect physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology. You will be doing it at your own peril. And it's very important for us to really, especially parents should realize that in some sense. In fact, using the same shock wave, like, kind of a scenario where you can instantaneously enhance the pressure and temperature, all kinds of interesting things can be done. Kidney stone, for example, today is removed using shock wave. It's called extracorporeal lithotripsy. In fact, we have done some interesting experiments where you have a fractured bone, you expose them to shock wave, fracture starts healing. Sachin Tendulkar got his tennis elbow problem treated using shock waves. You have a beef liver and then you expose them to shock, it becomes soft. All kinds of interesting things are happening. Artificial diamonds can be made in the lab using shock waves. Because this is only means by which you can generate thousands of degrees of temperature in few microseconds. 1 microsecond is how much? 10 to the power of -6. So we have looked at some very interesting applications like how do you make pencils better? How do you make pencils faster? Can you extract oil from sandalwood much in a faster manner? In fact, there is a very interesting story on this. Whenever the sandalwood in most our campus and Woodside's campus is virtually gone, a lot of people used to steal it. Today, according to Indian Penal Code, if you want to show that it is sandalwood in a court of law, you have to extract sandal oil and show that there is a peak of sandalol compound. Only then the court would agree. But oil extraction technique, what they have is that they dissolve it in the solvent, and it normally used to take about 17 hours before you actually get oil and then do a gas chromatography and go and produce the evidence in the court. By the time the sample used to be changed, they hardly had any conviction on sandalwood pouches. And surprisingly, when you expose the same sandalwood to shock wave, 15 minutes all the oil comes to the surface. We are trying to understand what is the science associated with that. Now we are looking at caffeine extraction, all kinds of fancy things using this. In fact, it's also interesting, we were trying to recreate a Pokhran kind of explosion in the lab. Pokhran is the nuclear explosion, right? Where you try to measure the pressure. In fact, Oppenheimer did this very interesting experiment. If you know the radii of the blast wave, you can figure out what is the energy. All that we do in this nuclear explosion is we measure the pressure at some particular distance, and we can go back and correlate this to energy. But while this was the destructive part in a laboratory in a controlled manner, we thought, can you not make use of the same energy in that micro explosion to put a drug inside the human body? Today we can actually put a DNA inside a cell using these micro explosions. And the animal trials have been done, and it was surprisingly discussed in Parliament twice. Many of us think that the Indian parliamentarians are not interested in science. It's actually wrong that they follow science advancement very closely. In fact, the star question was asked in Parliament twice on this discovery. Many companies have now come forward to take this, and probably in about another 2-3 years' time, you may have a system which is almost like a small cell phone of this size. You can just press them. So our dream is to make it like a cell phone with Android application. And insulin dosage also can be in a cartridge which is actually attached. And then people can actually take it without any problem. In fact, what is very interesting here is the pharma companies will not be very happy with this, that we are in a position to reach depth of about 100 to 200 micron. Below your skin, you have what are called as Langerhans. Most of us, when we have taken vaccine, you have a mark, right, on the skin. And that is because of reaction of the skin. And when you do the vaccine delivery by this particular method, you don't really need such large amount of vaccine. It only needs 1/10 of the existing vaccine. Most of us consume more vaccine because the needle punches the Langerhans cell. That is why you get the pain. Whereas in this particular method, there is not much of pain since depth of penetration is very low. A lot of interesting animal trials have gone on, and then we are now in a position to really look at vacuum delivery in a very nice way. We also did some very crazy experiment by putting a mic inside a shock tube. Especially if soldiers who are returning from battlefield, even if they are exposed to these kind of blasts for 15 days, immediately the hearing there is a problem and the arteries in the brain is shrinking by 50%. In fact, on Diwali crackers, if you observe from 20 years to now, sound level has actually dropped. But even the existing levels of the sound are abnormally high. Please make sure that you don't get yourself exposed to that, and definitely in 10 years your hearing actually will come down. But surprisingly, you expose the mice to controlled dosage of shock wave, they have started reacting to all kinds of diseases in a better way. So maybe you will have one particular chamber where you go inside, take a dosage of shock and go to work. You may not even catch cold. Maybe I am thinking in a very, very loud and wishful thinking, but you may not be surprised if that becomes a reality, because there are some fascinating things that can happen using these kind of shock waves. Ultimately, it comes to one final question. While all these things are nice, what is it that you are trying to do in science, engineering and technology? Where are the products? At the end of the day, nobody likes to listen to your big story. He should feel that his life is actually touched in a better way. But if you want to do that, remember friends, that the ultimate manifestation of scientific knowledge, they are products by which humanity can be better. That is why there is a very famous Kannada movie song which says, Hindustanavu endu marayada Bharatratnavu neenagu, Badavana kambani holithuva avishkara ಮಾಡುವ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನಿ ನೀನಾಗುತ್ತದೆ. Any science has to actually make the life of common man better. But if you want to do that, you need this basic science, you need engineering, you need also technology. But this is something which I don't know, common people are not aware. You need fundamental basic engineering. You think, once I know how it works, making a product is very easy. No, it is not. In fact, people say Chinese are specialists in reverse engineering. But do you know how difficult reverse engineering is? So basic engineering is an area where we have not given enough stress in this country. We are not able to make even the small reusable syringe in this country. We don't even make a type in. We don't make anything that are world-class products. There has to be a massive revolution, especially on the innovation front, if you really look at any major jump that we need to do, for which all the three are important: science, engineering and technology. And of course, basic engineering is going to be the key. But if we really look at innovation, now that the world is being used by many people, I feel that there is nothing new. If you really look at the Panchabhutas which exist in nature, what are the Panchabhutas? You have earth, you have fire, you have sky, you have water and air. And any new product which has come out is because of these five important things. Earth probably is represented by high quality people. Leadership should be like fire. Vision should be as broad as the sky. Vasudeva Kutumbakam, our entire world is our space. Water is more like a networking. And of course you need air. If you don't breathe, you will die. So you need money today. Money is an absolute, although it's not an absolute necessity, one of the necessities. But if you simply have people, leadership, vision and networking and money, you will never make a product. You need intensity, you need focus. Only then you can actually look at a new Avishkar science. That can happen only when there is a wonderful synergy between science, engineering and technology. People don't realize that a fantastic mindset is what is more important. We talk about sofa set, dining set and TV set, but mindset is the key for all kinds of changes that we do. Walt Disney, who was such a weak class, I think Tom and Jerry is watched by all of you, right? Even I watch whenever I get a spare time. But when you do that, he was such a miserable failure in his entire career. He was not able to even make one penny, and he was living on the outskirts of Los Angeles. And the situation was so bad that his entire space was covered with drainage water. He only had one shirt and one pant. He used to wash the shirt and hang it on a thread, wait for it to get dried, and then he used to wear it. One day when he was sitting with a hungry stomach like this, he saw a rat going from one end of the rope to the other end. It struck to him, can I not make this rat talk? Friends, Mickey Mouse was born there. Your innovation, your interest in science, your ability to think differently to the surrounding, is something which is amazing. That can happen only when you are actually relaxed, when you start enjoying, when you start living one with the nature. So in that sense, innovation or Avishkar can take only this route. So we thought, probably since we have been in the business of science, and we had about 20 to 25 patents in the last, say, several years, looking at all kinds of products, starting from natural products, oil and petroleum. We have looked at some very interesting application on trying to do shale gas extraction. So if this becomes a successful thing, India can actually become energy independent in the next few years. We are all dreamers. I am not saying we are going to solve the problem. Scientists are dreamers. Probably a scientist's job is the only profession where you get paid for doing what you like. I go to the office because I like, and I don't care about what comes at the end of all these things because I am enjoying myself. So science actually teaches you to enjoy. If you really want to enjoy and yet get paid by somebody else, like Government of India, then please take up science. It's an interesting proposition. So we have started, and in any case, I always believe, Swami Vivekananda has put it very nicely, you have to take risks in life. If you win, probably you could lead. If you lose, probably you can guide. And as scientists, obviously, or teachers, we always guide whenever we lose. But suppose maybe we will have a chance one day to win. And in fact, I'll just show this last product before I wind up this lecture. I never thought that one day shockwaves will be used in a tea industry. When my wife makes an excellent cup of tea in the morning, I only know how to drink it. All of us drink tea in the morning. But the amazing amount of science and technology which is involved in tea making is mind-blowing. I never knew that until we stepped into the annals of a tea factory recently. And from lab to lab, we have actually moved in about 6 months' time. Today, this particular device is working in one of the tea industries where we have come out with a new variety of tea which could actually lead into anti-cancer properties. And it has got 30% more antioxidant. And the entire process of tea making, which normally used to take about 17 hours, has come down to 4 hours. This is the first such product in the entire world space. We are very happy about it. But yes, this product has to keep a lot of trials have to go through. Then again, people should buy it. At the end of the day, we should pay money, right? So this device is now undergoing trials where we have treated close to 30,000 kilograms of tea. And it is very interesting that all that we do is we give them a shot of shock waves with the tea bags about 25 kg when it goes for tea making. So this entire device was developed in our own laboratory. All that because we knew the science associated with shock wave propagation in a complex media. We built this engineering device. Today it is already a technology, and if this gets validated in the next couple of months, we have a world-class product which can actually go and hit the market. Now this has to be the dream of every Indian, because at the end of the day, if you don't make products at world-class level, I don't think we will be in a position to make a mark. And it is not important for us to become the best in our country, best in our school, best in our college. We should be the best in the world. In fact, this particular statement caught my attention. If you come out of the Beijing airport, it is called as Beijing spirit. It says patriotism, innovation, inclusiveness, and then virtue. Friends, I have asked this question to many VIPs. What is the national ethos of our country? Is there one single thing which we can say we are very proud of to be called as Indians? Maybe in the last several years, although I would tread upon being little cynical, it is just corruption and cricket. Maybe most Indians seem to identify. But it is very important for us. Beijing, of all the places, they really mean every bit of the word that we have. But you may think that probably Indians do not have a ethos. No, it is not true. In fact, probably I believe science and innovation should become the national ethos if you really want to make a mark in the community of nations in the next 20, 30 years. But then what is science? I told you it is asking the right questions at the right time. Many of us think our parliamentary system is useless. But friends, I would like to take a word back and go back to the history, to the debates of the Legislative Assembly that took place in 1952 when they were trying to adopt Constitution. In 1952, India was still an illiterate country. More than 60% of our populations were illiterate. The entire parliament at that point in time took to the suggestion of Ambedkar and said, yes, we will adopt a condition where every MP should have a minimum educational qualification. We talk about it even now, right? This was actually presented as a bill. The entire house had actually agreed on making minimum educational qualification to the member of parliament. One particular person in the corner stood up and said, "Sir, 70% of our population are illiterate. How do you expect a literate person to represent a vast majority of Indians who are illiterate?" Friends, what a profound scientific question that was at that point in time. Probably today we have reached a stage where the entire world is amazed at how we conduct elections. It's a remarkable exercise. The voting machine to me is one of the greatest avishkars that has happened by India in the recent time. We don't realize that we have made 70 crore people vote in a peaceful manner, and technology has worked election after election. All that was possible because one man at that point in time asked a profound question. In fact, most of us, I come from a village, my mother was not educated, but all that she kept telling me, please study. Only when you get educated, you will get a job. Unemployment was at peak, probably in, say, 20 years ago. Even now it is no better. But you go to a village, every parent who himself has not gone to the university will tell you, please go and study. What a profound parents we have had, friends. We don't realize that India is such an amazing place where parents play such pivotal role in shaping the destiny. All the IT-BT revolution that we are talking today is not because of the current generation, but with the previous generation and colleges like National College. 100 years ago, that great man thought that there should be a high school. But if there was no school there, they would not have been any college. If there was no college, people would not have been educated. Only because we got education at such throwaway prices. You can't even buy one small gadget in a Western world for the money we spend in IITs or IAS. One semester IAS fees today is 6,000 rupees. India is blessed. All our higher education is extremely subsidized. But we don't really realize most of these things. I would just like to say that somehow we need to make sure that science and innovation becomes a part of our life. Because it's very interesting, since I mentioned Lotus Stream, I will be closing my lecture with that particular statement. At the end of the day, it is all between each one of us, especially the youngsters who are going to shape the destiny of this nation. What is it that we want to really become? Most of us would have actually seen how dosa is made in the house, right? You take a drop of water on a dosa tawa, what happens? It instantaneously evaporates. Same single drop of water when it is on a lotus leaf, and early morning the sun shines on the leaf, and that entire droplet of water shines like a diamond. But again, when the wind blows, even the drop of water goes away. But the same drop of water, when it gets inside an oyster, resides and it struggles for about 6 months, and when you take it out, what happens? It becomes a pearl. Friends, we need to decide whether we want to become a drop of water on the dosa tawa, or a drop of water on a lotus leaf, or whether we really want to shine like pearls in this wonderful nation called Bharat. I would just like to thank all my colleagues for listening to us. See the big picture that we have. We also have a Bodhi Vriksha there. We have taken the original sampling, thinking that one day it is going to become a big tree under which a lot of new things can happen. And I suggest that please do visit our laboratory. Don't think that IAC is not open to public. In fact, we do open day every once the Founders Day, March 3rd. But at any time you are free to come and visit, and I am sure that only all these labs are on because of taxpayers' money. So don't think that we are trying to do something extraordinary. Unless we connect to the common people, I don't think our science has any meaning. I would like to personally thank Professor AHR for inviting me here. I wanted to come and visit for a long time, but unfortunately due to one reason or the other, no excuses, I was not able to come, but I am sure that there will be a lot more exercises. They will be happy to take any questions. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, ಭಾಳ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ ಸರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾತಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಕಾರಣ ಇಷ್ಟೇ, ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ has got a very special place in all our hearts. It will not be an overstatement if I say that I took to teaching only because of teachers in National College of English. I can recall every single teacher who has taught me starting from Sanskrit to physics to chemistry, mathematics and English. And still couple of sentences, especially Deshkar used to walk in, say Akki can be converted into Anna, but Anna can't be converted key work out law of chemical equilibrium, rate of forward reaction is equal to rate of reverse reaction. So far, for your MS Vikrant boardman and mathematics, I have never seen teachers of such caliber during my short stint in the academic world anywhere in the world. It was a remarkable place. In fact, while I know the art thing in there was a function in JEP when I delivered the commemorative lecture. And the BESCOM chief, he said, the National College, especially the sir, Idwan Matatira, Kumar Naik, so I need to go and find out what is special about National College. In fact, Kudapur, we have started a campus near Chitradurga. Ali, we have recreated a nice science laboratory where teaching is done for science teachers. The Karnataka government is actually contemplating trying to reproduce similar kind of arrangement in every district. You won't believe that entire discussion, to which I was a party, the first thing they said, sir, Irara Madi, National College teachers, Antorna Udukondo, IAS, you share Kondre. So, Vignana and Uddara Madi. I think trying to get such teachers is going to be extremely hard, but I am sure the tradition continues in this wonderful institution. It is no joke to conduct such festivals for such a long, prolonged period of time, and yet retain interest in general public. And I thought that since this is a place where you are looking at science, everybody should know the correct difference between science, engineering, and technology. Because there is always a very abused word. PUC, you usually put your children to science. Everybody wants them to study PCLP. But the moment they enter into engineering, science is virtually forgotten. Science is relegated to first year engineering physics or first year engineering chemistry or mathematics, and they think engineering is completely different. And then when it comes to technology, nobody even bothers about the science that actually goes into making those technologies. So the purpose of my talk today is to really give you with illustrative examples as to what are the fundamental difference between science, engineering, and technology. So I'm going to keep it at a much lower level in that context. But I'll also give you live examples which I myself was doing in the laboratory. In addition to it, some more live examples where you can directly correct. In fact, I'm sure that most of you would have seen the building of Indian Institute of Science. It's very interesting, way back in the 90s when Swami Vivekananda met the senior Tata on the ship. Tata said that I am going to United States of America. I am going there to fetch the technology of steel making in this country. So he said, I am going to America to bring back the technology of steel making. Swami Vivekananda, ladies and gentlemen, at that time remarked, please tell me, friend, who is going to do the material science? He is a monk, a Hindu monk, who himself was going to Chicago. He remarked, who is going to do the science if we bring in the technology? Please go and start a higher institute of learning in India. And we were still under the British rule. And today we have celebrated little over 100 years. This is the view of our laboratory called Laboratory for Hypersonics and Shockwave Research. And incidentally, this happens to be the largest engineering science lab today in the campus. I am sure that most of you would have heard about diabetes. I don't wish and pray that anybody should get a disease. I am just trying to recall. Today, if you have diabetes, what do you normally do? You go to a doctor. Doctor gives you insulin if it is a very worst case. And there are people who actually have even an insulin pump implanted. Otherwise, people take the insulin injection and they say, but it's very interesting that way back in 1889 in Strasbourg, two important German scientists, one who is known as Van Meering and Oscar Pinkowinski, they were trying to understand how the digestive system of human beings works. And obviously you cannot do experiments with humans. So they were actually trying to do experiments with dogs. And what they were doing was they used to remove, say, a particular organ in the body and then observe what happens to the dog. Suddenly in that wonderful, nice, clean laboratory, they started seeing a huge influx of houseflies. Houseflies is not really good because it's a very deadly thing. They used to clean up, but still wherever the dogs were there, there used to be a lot of houseflies. Then one attender said, sir, somehow we will try to separate out the dog so that each one will be put in a cabin. And they did that. Suddenly they realized that the houseflies were not seen in front of most of the cabins. But still in front of one particular cabin, the houseflies used to come. And they they used to sit on the urine which were excreted by that particular dog. And incidentally, it turned out that the pancreas of that particular dog was actually removed. And for the first time they found out if your pancreas doesn't work properly, a lot of sugar will be excreted through the urine. That is diabetes. That is fundamental science. Much later, in fact, almost about 20 years from then, 23, Waiting and McLeod, they found out or invented insulin. And they said that insulin can actually make sure that your problem associated with sugar can actually come down. So now what is science here? When pancreas does not work, you will have a problem of a lot of sugar going out in the fundamental science. Then an engineer comes around, or a bioengineer or a doctor says that if you want to overcome that problem, you can take up insulin. When does it become a technology? When you just go to the shop and just buy insulin and swallow it, you never bother about the biomolecule or the chemical content of the tablet. Science is the foundation on which a good engineering or technology can actually rest. And we don't really realize that many a time. But please make sure that without science, there can be no engineering or technology. In fact, there are plenty of such examples in the literature. I am sure Michael Faraday is a person whom all of you would have heard of. But very little is known when he first demonstrated the experiment of keeping two magnetic field and moving, When electric EMF was generated, a noble in the British Empire, he asked him, "Sir, what is the use of these kind of experiments?" Michael Faraday remarked at the day, "Watch my word, one day you will charge people who start using this." We aren't pay electricity bill, right? Even today. So a EMF being generated when magnetic lines of force are cut is science. If you can make a device like an electric motor or a pump, it becomes engineering. When does it become a technology? When you don't even bother, the moment you switch on the pump early in the morning in your house, water should get pumped from the sump all the way up to the tank. You open your tap, you should start getting water. We never wonder about many things in life. How many of us have wondered how does the watch work? We assume that the watch should work. We don't bother how the cell phone works. We don't even worry how the light comes on in this wonderful auditorium. For at the moment you switch on, light should come on. But the electricity is generated, we do not know whether it is in Kaiga or in Sharavati. There is a huge amount of source, whether it is hydel power or nuclear power. So we don't really bother about many of the details. And when we do that, that is the power of technology. In fact, the history of science is replicated with so many such people. Thomas Alva Edison is another wonderful example. Very few people know that he had invented a voting machine 200 years ago. Almost, not 200, of course, he was in 1871. It's 140 to 100 years ago. And one of the very interesting things about Thomas Alva Edison is whenever he used to actually, for almost 6 years, he was not able to speak. But the moment he started speaking, he was always asking people, why is this? Why is it working in this fashion? And people were fed up with this question. So in some sense, if you ask me to define science in engineering and technology, this is the way I would like to put the definition. To me, science is all about asking the question, why? Of course, you shouldn't ask a question and forget it. You should actually go behind and find answers to that question. Then what is engineering? Engineering is all about asking the question, why not? And technology is something where you don't ask any question. A new model of camera, for example, of Samsung mobile which comes in today cannot remain in the shop for more than 6 weeks. Or even in some cases not more than even 6 days. That means technology can actually become obsolete very quickly. And to make single product, you may have to go through n number of technologies. But at the end of the day, this is the foundation on which everything actually lies. Who is the greatest scientist that is ever lived on this earth? The first pre-Nordic man who actually took 2 stones and actually scratched them to produce a spark of fire. And that is how fire was actually born, and then he started making food, and that is how the entire progression took place. All of us have been scientists at some point in time or the other. The very famous example I keep quoting is the Diwali Day cracker. At least I did that when my mother used to say, you always had a lamp. And the mother used to say, don't go and touch the lamp because it will burn. But as a kid, what would you do? Obviously, you would go near that flame and touch it, but then you can't touch it, it hurts. But when it hurts, you don't really cry because you turn around and smile. Unfortunately or fortunately, as we grow up, we stop asking the question why. We also stop smiling. Please don't do that, because the life is all about understanding nature and moving ahead. So in some sense, if you look at science, it originated with people who always were there in scholarly places in the kingdom. And they always used to look at like Galileo, Copernicus. They used to wonder, what is this wonderful nature? They were trying to understand nature. Engineering is more from the trades community, where first it was all developed for the military. There was only called as military engineering and civil engineering. In fact, civil engineering became, in some sense, the mother of all the engineering branches. But engineering essentially evolved from the tradesmen, whereas science was from scholars in some sense. In fact, if you look at technology, technology is all about creative spirit. It can change the whole world. In fact, how many of you thought that the mobile phone would come on the horizon? Today, you cannot even live. The latest survey shows 47% of the people have said that they can't even live one day without the mobile. And many a times we don't know, voluntarily, without doing anything, we just keep moving our fingers. We become hooked on to such kind of technology. And when we were here, we were using clock table and even slide rule. Do you use them today? You never even know how quickly you became obsolete in this wonderful world, because this is going to change the way we actually look at it. But at the same time, I am very fond of this particular photograph. Mahatma Gandhi visited Indian Institute of Science at least twice, once in 1927 and also in 36. It appears he went around, and you can also recognize Sir Raman there. This is Madhav Desai. Then he is Kenneth Aston, who was then the chairman of the Electrical Technology Division. After all this saying, Mahatma Gandhi actually unveiled his vision for Indian science. Unless all your discoveries that you make of the welfare of the poor at the end view, all your workshop will be really no better than Satan's workshop, as Rajgopalachari said. It's very important for scientists to get connected with the society. If I cannot connect my science and my research cannot reach the common man, then it is no science. Something is wrong with me. Because science is supposed to unravel the mysteries of nature. No matter how advanced technology or science that we are trying to do in the confines of a laboratory, we should be in a position to convey that to common people without any ambiguity. So in some sense, we need to really figure out how technological advances and scientific advances can be connected to the society. But it is not always easy. In fact, you may wonder that new technology is taken up very easily. But way back in 1814, when George Stephenson invented the steam engine, and this particular steam engine actually pulled about 30 tons of coal at 4 miles per hour, and the speed later got increased to about 12 miles per hour. People used to run away from this engine. They thought whenever somebody goes in such engine, the brain, the entire brain would explode. These are not recorded history. These are not some, talk and bull story here. That means people will not be able to accept technology all that easily. There will be a lot of apprehension. I am sure many of the senior colleagues here, when your son or daughter goes abroad, computers were not there. In fact, we saw computers in 84, but still you became adept and started conversing through Skype, started talking to them over phone. But you have that apprehension. In fact, when this train moved away, I have just discovered some of the things. People said that emission may even kill bird and people, and they would say chicken will stop laying eggs. So technology is not really very accepted all that easily. Let me give you some more examples of what really science, engineering and technology would really be like. In fact, this particular gentleman won the Nobel Prize for graphene invention in 2010. And in University of Manchester, which I used to visit, we used to bump into him in the coffee shop. He was only a postdoc from Russia. And it's very interesting, friends, many of you are here are youngsters, especially in the classroom. When you take a pencil and scribble on the desk, your teacher will scold you. Correct? Please don't do that. It's not a good habit. But this particular story that he narrated to me once in 2007 was really very, very invigorating. He said that his research was heading nowhere because he was only a postdoc. He did not have a permanent position in the University of Manchester. He used to work with the famous physics professor Andre Green. And they were looking at, can we make a monolayer of carbon in a stable form in the laboratory? Since 1920, physics tell you monolayer of carbon has got some remarkable property, but you can't put one atom of carbon side by side and make that into a thin sheet. So theory was known, but then experimentally nobody had actually proved. Out of frustration, Nosferatu actually took a pencil and he scribbled on the desk. And you know the sellotape, Scotch tape. He just put it on that scribbled pencil, and it was on a Friday evening. And he walked off. Monday morning he came, then the desk has to be cleaned. He removed the scotch tape. And he saw some black spots which were there on the scotch tape. Out of curiosity, he went and put it under the microscope. He saw a monolayer of carbon, thus invented was graphene. Look at the science, We think that science is not very, it's not the foundation. The moment you know that you could make a stable form of graphene in the laboratory, the floodgates open. Today you have transistors and IC chips which are already made, photovoltaic devices that have come out in the market. So using monolayer of carbon, if I make a transistor, then that becomes a engineering. When does it become a technology? Tomorrow my entire cell phone, my silicon architecture disappears. It is entirely going to be made on graphene. Automatically it becomes a technology. In fact, this is one of the earliest instances in the entire global history where from the point of invention to awarding the prize, it was hardly a decade. Today already in Korea and China there are huge foundries which are producing graphene. Because graphene can have a higher heat carrying capacity than silicon. So you will probably walk with a supercomputer in your hand in about 5 years' time. Silicon will completely disappear from the electronics arena. And advancements and science is so rapid and profound, it will change the way we live day to day life. Today can you see anybody not using an iPad or anything like that? It's almost like a digital age. Information is available to younger kids. All of them, they are based on your architecture of silicon. In fact, what is the fundamental science associated with all your electronics? It is Boolean algebra, 0 or 1. That is the power of science. In a similar way, you can find a number of examples. I don't know if you have heard about this particular word called CRISPR. This again is going to be another major revolutionary contribution where this CRISPR actually stands for clustered, regularly interspaced, short palindromic repeats. For example, if you take a double helix, genetic structure, they are all alphabets. Today you have a technology where just as you do autocorrect in a spell check, you can go back and then start correcting alphabets in a genetic code. So you may probably have cures for diseases like HIV, Alzheimer, Parkinson's, all kinds of things can happen. But what is the fundamental science here? Science is, can I repair the genetic code at the alphabet level? That is science. When does it become an engineering? When you actually build a device so that you can go and intervene in a patient and start doing all these kind of repairs on the gene therapy as it is called. When does it become a technology? You just walk into a hospital. You will never ask the doctor, will I become alright? That is what you ask. You never ask him, how does it work? You ask him 3-4 times, he may explain you 2 times and then say, please keep quiet, I know my job, you do your job. That's the power of technology. In fact, in one of the public lectures, a young girl asked me a few years ago, why does the butterfly is so beautiful? I think butterfly is something which I am always amazed. Sir C.V. Raman has spent a lot of time on these colors actually. It's really amazing. You should read some of those things that he talks about. In fact, the moment Sir C.V. Raman came to mind, I am reminded of a very nice incident that took place in his life. It was important because all of us talk about time sense today. It appears once after he got Nobel Prize, they asked him to give a lecture on the color of flowers in All India Radio. And All India Radio, I don't know, nowadays of course you have FM and so many other things. And that day you had this Krishnalata which used to come at 7:30. And at 8 o'clock you used to have a national All India news which used to be broadcast in Hindi. So Raman was from 7:45 to 8 o'clock. And as usual, Raman was a very eloquent speaker. He removed his petas and started speaking. And Dr. Ranganath, actually, who happened to coordinate this program in a studio, everybody were very captivated by this talk. But suddenly, the clock started ticking and Raman has closed his eyes and he is not in any mood of stopping the lecture. And if he doesn't stop at exactly 8 o'clock, automatically his speech would be cut and the All India Radio would broadcast the news. Then the whole world will say Nobel laureate was actually disrespected and things like this. Man started sweating. Then he said, no, I am going to go and then disturb him. If you see the All India Radio, there is anechoic chamber, no sound can enter. At 7:59 he barged in and he was about to say, then Raman said, okay viewers, that's all for you. Good night. Immediately Ranganath said, sir, thank God you saved me. He said, why are you saying like this? No, no, time was not an issue. I didn't know when you will stop. Then Raman showed that he had a small kulmi here. Whenever I begin a talk, I actually tap twice. And I know that I have to stop at 15 minutes. That's the power of such people. And the color, the research that he has done is so amazing. That one girl asked me, sir, why does a butterfly is of different color? I answered them in as usual manner. See, teachers have this wonderful skill. They can either convince or confuse. And somehow get away with this, they can play with the word. And they say, if somebody says, I don't know, then they think, oh, he's such a great man, he says he doesn't know. And even if he bullshits, they will say, oh, whatever he is telling may be right. Something happened on that public lecture where there were more than 6,000 people. But the chitte ಬಗ್ಗೆ, color ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು, ಏನೋ ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಬಂದೆ, ಮನಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಸಮಾಧಾನ ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. Then when I went back, and I was very fascinated by this particular variety called Morphus didius. This is available in most of the tropical forests. It has got a fantastic copper sulfate color. And the moment a predator comes, it just does this. It becomes completely white. What was blue becomes white, so that no predator can actually identify, and then it protects itself. And it turns out that this is a huge area of research called biopotany, where people are actually trying to understand the color and how it is produced in nature. And for a long time, people thought it is the pigment which is there, and when sunlight falls, the color is produced. On the contrary, that is not true. It turns out that these have got very nice nano-sized ridges on the surface, and when light falls on it, there is a complete total internal reflection. And the contact angle between two ridges is 140 degrees. Friends, we are very proud of human beings. We think we are proud of creation and all. But a small insect which lives for 15 days, which is not even 15 millimeters in size, we cannot reproduce the structure of a butterfly wing in the laboratory today, notwithstanding the great advancements in technology that we have made. It's so wonderful that that fellow can actually reflect any frequency. Today they are trying to build transistors and diodes using butterfly wing. Why a butterfly wing has got a particular color is science. Can I make use of that property and build a device? It becomes engineering. When does it become a technology? Tomorrow you may have an unmanned aerial vehicle which is actually flying, has got these kind of nanostructure, so that automatically IR can get reflected. In fact, they can reflect UV and IR. It's remarkable. In fact, the nature is full of such surprises. In fact, I am sure most of, at least some of our senior friends here would have seen a lotus leaf. But how many of you have seen a dirty lotus leaf? Lotus flower itself is grown in a very dirty pond. So then the leaf is never dirty. For a long time, biologists thought that the leaf has got a waxy layer. Because of the waxy layer, then whatever water falls, it's like a waterproof, no? It goes away. But on the contrary, it just turns out again, there is wonderful nano-sized ridges, and the surface tension becomes so huge that you put a drop, it just sucks in, and then it falls down, and there is a drooping angle of 30 degrees. And when one German scientist, all that he did was, his name is William Bartrold, and all that he did was put a lotus leaf under a microscope and show to the world for the first time what is the structure of a lotus leaf and why does water not stay on the lotus leaf. That is science. Today you have paints where dirt cannot sit on them. Probably many of you would have experienced the latest household paints which are coming. You just put water, it just gets washed away. Nothing can stay on that. You have got super hydrophobic surfaces. You have all kinds of fancy things which are happening. All of that was possible because there is a fundamental science associated with any advancement in technology. So these are all about regular examples. Can you tell me what is it that you are doing in the lab? So I'll just quickly take you through some devices, some applications that we are doing in the lab, and to tell you how disciplines are going to diminish and disappear in the next 10 years. Please don't say that I am from the arts community, I am from the commerce community, I am from the language, I am from science, engineering. Please watch my words, friends. It is not even more than 10 years that all these disciplines will disappear. At the end of the day, industry or a society wants the problems to be solved. Nothing is inferior, nothing is superior. If you want to make a product, the product should look good. The product should be cheaper. It should do the job. It should make sure that the life of common man on the street is going to be better than what it was yesterday. So in that sense, we have a vision in our own laboratory of hypersonics and shockwave research, while we do very high-end science of re-entry vehicles. We in fact recreate the same condition experienced by Kalpana Chawla when that space shuttle re-entered, and the entire, unfortunately, they were burnt alive. We can recreate those conditions in the lab today. At the same time, we are also now almost carrying out human trials where you can have an injection without any needle. It's important for us so that it's a painless injection that we are talking about. At the same time, we have also come out with a new method by which you can treat the bamboos so that people in the rural area can build houses. Year after year, they don't have to remove the bamboo because whenever rain falls on that, there will be a lot of microbial attack, and then the only way to overcome that is you need to treat them in the labs. And treat method, currently there was no method that is available. So we are just trying to enjoy most of these things. At the end of the day, our science should connect to the common man. This is a view of our lab. In fact, we have a huge center of excellence and hypersonics which we have established here, trying to build the next generation missile which would probably travel at about 10,000 kilometers per hour. Although missiles are not really good for a society, the whole world that we live today is not very harmonious. We have fantastic neighbors about whom we have to be careful. Chinese have a technology by which they can simply shoot a satellite from ground. Today we are so hooked on to mobile phone, I told you, if 2 satellites stop for functioning up above in the low Earth orbit, your entire life can come to a standstill. Electricity switching is through computers. Bank transactions is through computer. Of course, water to some extent still we have the manual valves in some places. But most of our job today, our society has reached a stage where technology is heavily dependent on communication. So the moment you just shoot 2 communication satellites, you will actually surrender. Future wars are not going to be fought on battlefield with missiles. But at the same time, you also have to be powerful. In fact, one such incident took place in Russia, where the Chechnya rebels were actually made to put down their arms in 15 days. All that the Russian government did was to turn off the heating system, turn off the water supply, turn off electricity, freeze all their bank accounts for 15 days. And they never fired a single weapon. All they did was with remote hack the computers and then shoot it up. Technology is changing very rapidly. In fact, your old mythology, people think is all cock and bull story. No, there are a lot of fantastic things in our mythology symbolically. They used to call about Daivi Astra. I don't know if you have heard about the celestial weapons. Today there are technologies where a weapon-based satellite can be revolving in the outer orbit. At the command of a person at ground, it can actually come and attack any part. So things are all going in such rapid rate. So what we do in our lab here is every instrument that you see in a big hangar-like structure has been built by our students. There are only 5 countries which has got such capabilities where you can recreate the same condition experienced by this vehicle in the outer space. All that happens in outer space is body is moving, air is stationary. But in the lab we do the reverse to keep the body stationary and create an airflow. These are all facilities called shock tunnels and pre-piston tunnels where we generate velocities to the tune of almost close to 14 kilometers per second, starting from 2 kilometers per second. But we do all of that only for about 1 millisecond, 1,000th of a second. But electronics is so good today that you can get enough data within all that time. But when you talk about such things, one very important parameter that comes is what is called as a shock wave, or I have deliberately named it as an enchanting wave. Only because this is, although this originated from aerospace, it has got a fundamental extension from ultrasonic waves and sound waves. In fact, in sound waves, for example, I am speaking, you are able to listen. Sound waves are traveling at speed of about 340 meters per second. And the distance between me and you is hardly about few meters. That is where you are able to listen comfortably. But if the speed becomes very large, larger than say close to about 3 to 4 times the speed of sound, then the energy dissipation cannot take place all that easily. Nature has invented a wonderful method called shock waves, where energy dissipation takes place in a massive manner, and you will be in a position to make sure that the continuum mechanics principle holds good. In fact, every country is trying to build vehicles like this so that they want to get rid of this rocket launch. Right now, all the launches is through rocket. They want to have an aircraft-like structure wherein you go to outer space, launch a satellite, and then come back. And all of that is defined by this number called Mach number. And whenever this is more than the speed of sound, you talk about hypersonics and supersonic. In fact,